Hello, everybody. Welcome to Business Profit Acceleration Group Coaching. Today, we're going to talk about a really important topic. And let me share my screen. Who's familiar with SWOT analysis? Not SWAT, but SWOT. Corinne, you were just talking about what the heck happened to 2023. It's past mid-November already. What the heck happened? And a lot of times we go, and we don't take the time to do some analysis, to do some thought that will help us accelerate forward in our businesses. And this can be used in your life as well. So it's called a SWOT analysis. And why is it important? If we keep going through our business operations as usual, then we're not going to get breakthrough gains. And we might get blindsided by threats and really be taken down and not prepared for big, real threats. And I'll talk about likelihood and impact. But SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When should we do this? I think it's a really good idea before a big initiative or after a big change in the organization. And I think minimally, we should review our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on a quarterly basis. So that's something it would be good to just put in your calendar and do on a regular basis. This graphic here says SWOT is a framework used to evaluate a company's competitive position and to develop strategic planning. The beauty of it is it's quite simple. The trap is that we could listen to our monkey brain, our amygdala, primitive brain, fear-based ideas or thoughts, but we want to avoid that. How do we avoid that? There's two questions. If we're looking at threats, for example, that's where our fear might overtake and hijack the process. Because if we're not in the best frame of mind, then everything can appear to be a threat. Making a change, the weather, anything. And so the two important questions are, what's the likelihood of it happening? Low, medium, high. And if it does happen, what's the impact? Low, medium, high. And the only things that should be on the threat list would be medium or high likelihood, medium or high impact. The other things you can handle, you can deal with on the fly. So and it's also good with a process like this to start with something positive. So that's why it starts with strengths. So what are your company's strengths, your team's strengths, your process strengths, software, equipment, operations? What are your strengths? And just it doesn't have to be a huge comprehensive list, but what are your major strengths? And a lot of times we don't take the time to acknowledge ourselves for strengths. So this is a really healthy thing, and it may be uncomfortable for some of you, but I highly encourage you to think about, what would somebody else compliment you and your business on? And then write those down and really internalize them and give yourself and your team credit for that. And that might be something to bring up at the next team meeting. And then weaknesses. The best frame of mind here is, if you don't know about it, you can't change it. You can't improve it. Our egos don't like our weaknesses, and we don't like to talk about it. And we certainly don't like to write them down or share them with anybody. But that's exactly where the benefit of this process comes from, is putting our ego aside, say, hey, I'm a human being. Let's just do an honest evaluation and write down some of the weaknesses, and then make a systematic plan to improve those. Same thing with opportunities. A lot of times there's opportunities that maybe we're afraid of trying because we don't know what the outcome would be. But just don't worry about, at this point during the SWOT analysis, don't worry about implementation or getting it done. Just write down the opportunities. And then we can revisit those and choose one at a time and make forward progress incrementally. Now, we talked about threats a little bit. Again, these are like real threats. And it could be the economy. It could be something as real as war in certain places on the planet. What are real threats? Could be competition, could be trends in the market. Is the market going up? Is it going down? What's your competition doing? And while you're doing the threats and looking for the high likelihood, high impact, real probability threats, you can add to your opportunities section at the same time. Any comments or questions on this really important business analysis?
I might add something that just kind of hit me when we talk about the weaknesses and the opportunities, and kind of going along the lines of your two-way communication you were referring to before we went online. And that is that when there's weaknesses, for us to, the manifestation process that I use is, show me the open doors, show me what I don't know. If there's something that's missing, could you just kind of download that to me so I can have a better visual of what that opportunity might be, and sort of be willing to look at it rather than have our guard up against it.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like a really powerful process to use your spiritual connection and intuitive connection to get insights and ask, you know, even if you don't have a belief system or a religion that, or you could be an atheist or agnostic, this will still work. So you can ask a higher power, you can ask God, or you can ask the higher brain centers, your frontal cortex, and say, what are my strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are the biggest opportunities that would be great to take advantage of? And then thank whoever you're talking to for the guidance, for the wisdom, and do this again, like I said, on a regular basis.
Yeah. And
another
then
question that might come up is, okay, well, what do we do with this? You want to fortify strengths and make them even stronger and promote them and reward them, especially if you have a team and yourself. A lot of times, like I said, we don't take time to evaluate, and we don't take time to reward and pat ourselves on the back. We're like, okay, what do I got to do next? Weaknesses, again, if it's a high likelihood that this is going to affect the company and it's going to impact the company, then what's your plan to improve? Or who could you bring onto the team? Or what system might help strengthen those weaknesses? Or what could you stop doing? What are some bad habits that you can stop? That's a huge improvement. Again, taking advantage of opportunities, prioritizing them. You know, what's going to get the best bang for the buck? Threats. If it's high, then what's your backup plan? You know, this kind of disaster preparedness idea comes to mind. In California, we have earthquakes. The impact could be really high, but the likelihood or the frequency is quite low. There's also fire dangers here in California. And a lot of times people don't check their fire extinguishers or get fire extinguishers or put hoses around the house or have backup food and water supplies and first aid kit until after a disaster. So this is the opportunity to be proactive with your business.
I have a little thought that came up, kind of bouncing off of what you said. AI could be both a threat and an opportunity, right?
Exactly. And so if something's a threat and an opportunity, you put AI and then explain what part of AI would be a threat, and then what part of AI could be a huge opportunity. Yeah, great idea. Thank you.